Good morning. Good morning, everybody. And here comes Penelope. Here we are on Live with Joan, and it's a beautiful morning, and I have Live with Yasmin right next to me.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are.
I'll put you close to the mic. Yasmin is on my iPad, and you're here live with Joan. And so I wanted to, of course, let you know that I run on caffeine, horses, and cuss words. And that's how I've started the day so far. That's not true. I've actually meditated, jumped rope, went on a hike, picked up horse poop, kitty litter, watered plants. I've done a million things. Now I get to have my cup of coffee with you. So,
Cheers, that's so good.
Cheers. And I did weights, not to add to my list of things I did. But I'm in a different chair because my chair that I'm normally in is getting reupholstered. So that's my big excitement around here. And I want to get started with our Mr. Toad's Wild Ride of where are you on this journey. And but I have a lot of announcements and a lot to share. So if you're new to me, my name is Joan Ranquet. I'm an animal communicator, author, TEDx speaker, and founder of Communication with All Life University. And the school is set up to learn animal communication or become an animal communicator, to learn energy healing or become an energy healer, and then we have a nature and wildlife piece that is being built out. And we have lots of fun classes coming up, and we have a class tomorrow. We might have 1 or 2 spots left, and it's Animal Communication Level 1. And I'll tell you the difference between like the intensive and level 1 for those that missed the intensive or are interested in the intensive in the fall. Sorry, I got talking too fast. So the intensive was very intense and all-inclusive. Like we ate, breathed, and showered. There's another SH word. Animal communication, EFT, and don't get me started, Yasmin. EFT and animal communication in the sanctuaries. And it was so incredible. It was incredible, and that's all we did. With the AC level 1, the one thing you get to do is you get to integrate it into your daily life, right? You start with 1 class a week, you talk to 1 animal, you build up to doing some homework. So you see what it's like. Is this what I want to do? Is this how I want to be? Have I created a really groovy space for me to, like we have one gal that's moving up to advanced animal communication today, and she just did the 12 weeks AC level 1, and her husband, like literally she said, I'm going to take the class in here and meditate in here, and her husband would be opening and closing the garage door underneath her. So, it's like you find your sacred space, you find what works for you at home, because this is really one of those jobs where if you're sitting there on the Zoom or telephone talking to a number of animals, you've got to have your space set up, So AC level 1 is really an opportunity to discover if this is what you want to do, how you want to do it, all of that. And then we also have on May 13th, Energy Healing for Animals. And so like AC level 1, you also get AC Fundamentals, which is 12 online lessons that are intense with the program. So in the Energy Healing for Animals level 1, you also get Energy Healing for Animals Fundamentals, which is another 12 weeks of intense. There's lots of videos, PDFs, audios, all sorts of things for you to learn all about energy and energy fields. And then we do a lot of EFT tapping, and we do something called the scalar wave, and it's very fun. It's a very fun class. And I will say that when you do that class, you literally get a PhD in behavior. I have no other way to, because you start looking around at why animals are doing things, why they're doing it in the home. And, you know, I know there's a whole bunch of animal communicators out there that love to say, oh, well, it's just the energy. It's like, well, what if you brought that animal in and you don't know that animal? You can't, you know, the human blame game is just, it's no fun anymore. And it's really a lack of doing the work if somebody's going to just always blame the human. I mean, granted, a dog trainer or a horse trainer can blame the human. I mean, there are a lot of things we could do to be better. But when you're coming to this work, you're already wanting to be better. So then really breaking down the components of what doesn't make that animal feel safe. And when we look at it from that perspective, suddenly we have a whole different way that we start looking at our own behavior and animals' behavior. So it's a very fun class and very informative, and yeah, so that's that. And then the other thing that I haven't announced, but I'm just going to say it, I have this big event. It's July 6th. It's July 16th. What is it? 16th, 17th, 18th. What is it, Yasmin?
Yes, it is the 16th to the 18th of July.
Yeah. And that's really, I mean, I would love my students to be in on that, or people that are already interested. But if you don't feel like right now you can make the plunge into this animal communication for 12 weeks, or this energy healing for animals for 12 weeks, I think the July event is really going to be great. There's going to be some basic animal communication. There's going to be breakouts. There's going to be unbelievable speakers. It's going to be so much fun, and it will be online. I'm thinking about doing it as a hybrid, but I'm pretty sure I'll do it as an online, I don't know, to be determined. But anyway, so that's what's coming up in life. And that's who we are. So I had to print out my notes because I didn't, we got away from our little where are you on the journey. And is anyone here, Yasmin?
Yes, I was just about to give my 2 cents. There are so many people jumping on and saying hi to you. Good morning, Joan.
Good morning.
It's so fantastic to be here in the Facebook Live. Just so many people are commenting and saying hi from everywhere. And, you know, just as a little kind of starter, I was reading this comment by Kate Howard, who says, someday I'll do the AC level 1. I have been fighting self-doubt on this for 20 years. I took my first AC workshop decades ago and see that what stands in my way is my belief in myself. Isn't that beautiful? And how that segues so beautifully into what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, and you know, I would really, is it Kate? Was it Kate?
It's Kate, yep, Kate.
So Kate, I would really encourage you to get on a call with Shannon, because she also will relate, and I relate, and it, you know, and I think a whole bunch of people will relate. I think if anybody's recently taken AC Level 1, if you could speak to Kate and type in your thoughts about it. And it's almost like the 12 weeks, the first 12 weeks, especially if you want to go on, is the beginning of that building that telepathic muscle into the idea that, look, I actually can have confidence in this. And I'm starting, you're building the telepathic muscle and you're building the trust muscle. So you're building 2 muscles at a time. And then you really, like, if you keep going with us, then the confidence, that 6-month mark, I can't even tell you what that's like. So all the people that just finished AC Level 1 that are jumping into advanced animal communication right now are looking at, like, by September, they're going to be like, oh my God, I can do this. So you just have to layer it step by step by step. You have to practice. You have to learn to trust. And it will change a lot of things, but I really encourage you to get on a call with Shannon, because even if you can't do it now, you could get set up for October You know, I run it a couple times a year. And then because we've had so many people interested, this was the second year we added a January version. But anyway, she can get you on a path to doing it whenever. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but it'd be fun if you were that one spot left. Okay, so anyone else here?
Lots of people. I was just answering. Answering Kate. Yeah, lots of people are jumping on and saying hi, and it's so sweet. Charlie Kale answered Kate to say, "Me too. I finally took the plunge, and I'm starting tomorrow."
Woo!
So about 10 O's. So excited. I'm so glad, Charlie. Just wonderful to have you on board.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so excited for Charlie. It's about time. And that's another thing for Kate. Like, it is timing. Like, how long have I been trying to get Charlie to do this, you know? So it is interesting what, you know, how divine timing plays such a key part of it. So anyway, anyone else anyone else saying hi?
I'm looking. So many, Kate. Let's see. Teresa Perkins says hi.
Hello.
Corinne is here from the south of France.
Hello,
Bonjour, Corinne. Hello.
Ah, bonjour.
Heidi Fryer is here.
Hello.
Susie Morrow Reed is here.
Susie's in the house. Susie got a new dog.
Jane Sewell.
Yeah. Hi, Jane. Jane is joining us tomorrow.
Wow. Susanna Cantor.
Hi, Susanna.
Michelle Hofferbert.
Michael Hofferbert.
Joyce Lee.
Michael.
Leggett.
Hi, Joyce. Hi, Michael. Michael, yeah, I want to talk to you. Anyway.
I'm sorry, did I say Michelle? I mean Michael.
That's all right.
Sorry, duh.
Okay. Michael wrote the most amazing things. We went through all of the Jill and Joan. We had this Jill and Joan 21 Days to Fitness, and it was so much fun. And we read it took us a day, and we read through all the comments. But Michael, when you filled out that form, it was so fantastic. And yeah, we're going to run that again in October, but the fitness doesn't have to stop if you're on that page. Join us. And Corinne, also, your stuff was amazing. So we're announcing winners here soon. Anyway, so here, where are you on the journey? And this should speak to Kate. This should speak to a lot of the people that are, contemplating jumping in at some point. And it's a different chair, so I'm having a different experience, if you will. Anyway, I want my chair back.
I want your chair back too.
Oh my God. I paid for all this upholstery to be done before, like in January, and the guy was, he had some problems, and anyway, he took the chairs for the dining room table, so I didn't have any of the chairs for the intensive. They'll be beautiful when they're back. And then he came and took my, he sat while I was doing he knew not to come at 10 last week. And what time did he come? At 10 last week. So he had to sit out there and watch me do the live in the chair that he came to get. I just thought it'd be too weird to have him take the chair in the middle of the live, although it would have been exciting. So, one of the things that this week's theme is about is what are the signs that you've always followed? And the thing I think about with where are you on the journey is where are the signs, and did they lead you to teachers? And I'm not I'm not saying did they lead you to me? You might have a different teacher, and this may not be what you're doing. Maybe this is just a fun hobby for you, and on Tuesdays you're bored and your boss is out of the office and you're here. But you might also be really interested in this journey. And so for whatever place you're in, it's always fun to contemplate what have been the signs that got me here, and then who have been some of the teachers along the way. So we're really going to dive into that. And I know for me, I always say that, the universe offered animal communication to me several times. So many times I can't even tell you. So many times. And I just didn't do it. And it took an anvil being dropped on my head, right? First there was the whisper, and then there was the... And what is that thing that that saying that all these people were sitting on a roof and waiting for God to save them in a flood, and a helicopter came by and they're like, nope, we're waiting for something, and then when they finally die, they're like, well, what were you doing? We sent you a helicopter. It's like, we don't even see the signs sometimes. I really ruined that story, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So when we have all these signs, we sometimes ignore them. So I think part of what I love about an animal empath is we are the type that actually would look at like the way that a Kleenex is wadded and say, oh, it's a sign. Oh my God, it's in the shape of a heart. It's my dead horse talking to me. So that's the sort of thing that I'll see a heart out of anything and say, oh, Raleigh's here. But we do that, and those things do mean things, and it is important to recognize it. And so we're going to kind of do a little deep dive into that today. Does anybody relate so far to seeing signs? No? It's
Not
okay.
so far, but well, it's interesting that Durga just said, be like a Nike tennis shoe. Just do it.
Just do it.
I like that. Just jump in. Just do it. I love that. Take the plunge.
Yeah.
Kate says she's heard the helicopter story. So true. We'll get people signs. Yeah. Charlie says signs. Yes, all the time. I look for them.
Yeah. And for us, it's not you look at somebody who, and you may have even been this person, like, I did this and I did that, and I got an MBA and I became a da-da-da-da-da, and it still wasn't fulfilling. And they missed all those signs along the way. And then there's some people that path was perfectly perfect for them. But a lot of us, and I want to, kind of look at what were the signs and who were the teachers that really fed your soul. And I think it's really important to look at that. So I would love for you, first of all, to, if you feel like animal communication or energy healing for animals or some of these things is part of your path, I would love for you to write those in. I'll share a few while you're writing these in. So obviously I was very connected with animals as a kid, and, I probably was communicating, but I was very drawn to plants. I loved to talk to plants, and I loved to see plants grow when I talked to them. So that was one thing. And I always had these kind of magical adventures with friends where we'd be lost in the woods, and oh my God, and the next thing you know, we followed almost like breadcrumbs out. I have a friend named Conleth that we would just always, if we got together, my parents were sending out a search team, but we'd make it back, right? Like, wow, well, we just followed the stars. So I had a lot of magical adventures like that, and I tend to draw those kinds of people to my world. And so that was pretty obvious. But I have a story that I don't tell very often. I don't ever tell it, but it's pretty funny. So before I was this, I was an actress and a writer, and I was dating the brother of somebody very famous. He's also somebody that you would know. And I was up for a film called A League of Their Own. And I was up for the part of the slutty sidekick, funny sidekick, right? Which Madonna ended up getting. I'd come so far in the audition process that I actually met with Penny Marshall, and I met with her 3 times. I read with the cat. Like, I was as far along as you could go. And I'll never forget the one day I I was met with Penny Marshall. It went fantastic. If you know me, you know I don't know sports, but I went and I learned how to play baseball. I learned the whole thing. All this stuff. And when I walked out of the best audition I've ever given in my entire life, the secretary says to Penny Marshall, Madonna will be here at 4. And I knew that I'd lost it, right? And yet, so I had this appointment that Saturday with a psychic. And now, mind you, this whole time I'm dating this flake. And I wanted to know, is there a future with this guy, and am I going to do A League of Their Own, right? Like, too huge. Like, why does anybody go to a psychic? It's work, it's money, it's love. So I wanted to know, is this guy the one? Which I kind of knew he wasn't. And am I going to get this part? Which I kind of knew I wasn't. And I had my horse Pet 1 at the time. Like, my life was pretty horsey. I would audition and do horses. And I watched dogs for a living and sometimes waited tables, but I was getting little work as an actor here and there, and I would rewrite people's stuff. So I was like just always life of an artist. So when I get to the door of this psychic, and I'd never been to a psychic before, like to her house, I knock on the door and I hear the most unbelievable barking, like somebody's being shredded. And I hear this, quieting in the background, and I'm a little, okay, what's all that about? But the woman opens the door, and here's this stunning woman with like the most blue eyes you've ever seen in your life, and looks like, straight out of casting, the psychic. So I'm like, oh. So I go, she has me come into her living room, and I sit down, and she looks off into the distance, and it's really spooky and cool. It was really like, if it was a show, I was buying it. And so she just did a general read before I asked my questions, and she's like, you're in the wrong field. And I'm like, oh no, I just met Penny Marshall, so she kept telling me, and Penny Marshall was the one that directed A League of Their Own, in case you don't know. She kept telling me that I was supposed to be working with animals. And I was like, I would love to work with animals, but, I'm sure I'll work with animals in this world. And I could hear these dogs were starting to bark again. And so, of course, she had to gracefully tell me that I was not getting that part, that I was not going to be with that guy, and that I was not going to end up doing what I was doing, which I was so mad. And right then, the dogs burst through the door, but they aren't dogs, they're wolves, and they're illegal. She's not supposed to have wolves in Burbank. So the next thing you know, these wolves break in, these hybrid wolves break in, and one lands at my feet, and the other one lands in my lap in the same way that like Penelope does, and was just licking my face and licking my face and licking my face. And I didn't know, so she said, oh, this one that's on your feet is so shy. She's terrified of everyone. I can't believe they're even here. And you can't make this up, right? And it still took like probably 6 years before, maybe not that long, but it took a long time before I really committed to this work. And I have, several other things like that. I worked with a Native American healer named Butch Artichoker long before I had Pet 1 and even Pony Boy. I worked with him for 5 years in that time. And he was always saying to me, you could be doing this work. And I just didn't believe it. I didn't see how. And yet, if I had listened to all that, there would have been a faster path to doing this. And so I'm just wondering if any of you had signs along the way. Is anybody typing in?
I don't even know where to start.
Hmm.
There are so many comments. So Heidi says, this is interesting. Well, Susan Morrow Reed I'll start with her. She says, Shannon was my helicopter and I climbed on board and I'm so grateful. I loved every second. So she obviously listened to that, right?
Yeah.
And just jumped on board. So her listening ears and her intuition was very in alignment. Heidi then says, Heidi Fryer says, waiting for signs. Is there someone who can tell my cat that his brother has passed away? So, Heidi's waiting for signs.
We have students that need case studies, and we also have professional animal communicators here that have graduated from the program. So we're happy. If you write to sessions@joanranquet.com, you can get help for sure.
I'll answer Heidi in the comments. And then Kate says again, my animal communicator and I cured a cat FIV. I know how powerful the work is and the energy healing. It's just, when am I going to hear the sign? And here is written in all caps. So,
come to class, Katie. Is that loud enough? No, I think that, again, but that's like the people sitting on the roof when the helicopter comes by, right? Like, if you've seen it, believe me, I'm only saying this because I had seen it. All that time that I'm in this psychic's chair or working with this Native American, I was having an animal communicator come regularly to talk to my horse. And she would always say to me also, you can do this. You should be, you've got this. You're doing this. And I just didn't listen. So you might be hearing it and you might not be hearing it. You know what I mean? I mean, it might be, but it might be more subtle. And if it is subtle, you need to still listen to it because it gets harder and harder. The way in which the lesson is delivered is not so easy after a while. So, anyone else? Yasmin?
So, yeah, Laura Carr says, definitely I volunteer at a wild bird rescue and came across animal communications through that, but I've been a bit lazy and haven't followed the signs as I should. So that's also, acting upon what you're given and what you're shown is also an incredible thing to acknowledge, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it is an important thing to acknowledge is that at least you've seen, at least you recognize that in yourself. But like I said, we kind of, as animal empaths, we've had our own signs, we've had our own almost language, we've had our own roadmap to what we're doing. And right now, volunteering still in a wild bird refuge is a huge part. It's almost like at least you're on hold temporarily in some place that is still feeding that. And that's what's most important is that you're still around it, and so you can step in. It's more when people aren't even seeing the signs or recognizing them, even though they're right there. Go ahead, Yasmin. Anyone else?
Kate just did a big shout out. Thank you, Joan. So that's wonderful. Kate, this is a private session for you.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's a joke. And then Becky, this is lovely. Becky Papa John says, I love those kind of stories, Joan. I just always thought animals were drawn to me because I just loved animals so much. And I'm a city girl who for the past 28 years lived in the country. But after my broken heart, losing Jack, my donkey, I'm back in town, and even here, all the puppy dogs come. So that's beautiful.
That's really beautiful. And you know, it's interesting because I always joke that I'm a city chick on a farm, so I get it. You know, I mean, I'm comfortable in both. I mean, I love if you saw my view right now. It's ridiculous. Should I show the view? This is what I'm looking at. You're gonna see my messy desk. All right, 1, 2, 3. That's what I look at. Can you see that?
Not yet. Hang on a second. Let's see. Oh yeah, now. Yep.
I mean, it's just beautiful. So I've come back. Oh boy, now we're in trouble. Now I need tech support. I love to look at that and have that be my view and take my signs from nature. But I also find signs in the city, and I found one of the signs I always find is that nature's all around, even in the city, and you're finding the puppy dogs and all of that. So there's beauty in both, for sure. So
Randy says, looking back, I had signs since I've been a child. Well, they were more like bangs on the head, lots of laughs. I just didn't listen. I finally began to listen, and the energy of listening put me on a focused path, and I simply cannot deny it. That's beautiful,
yeah,
Sandy.
that's awesome. So when some of the things that have also for a lot of us, and I've started this whole thing thinking about, you know, we start out as Alice in Wonderland, and we, you know, the goal is to become like a Jane Goodall, and some of what we do is we also create these heroes that not a lot of other people had. And I remember like being a kid and in the 6th grade, and that's how old I am. Yes, that's how old I am. Being in the 6th grade, we had this huge map of Africa on the wall, and actually the world. And we were studying like where Dr. Leakey had Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey, and then Birgit. I can never remember her last name, but she was the one working with the orangutans, and Diane Fossey was with the apes, and Jane Goodall was with the chimpanzees. And that impacted my soul as a kid. Like, what is she doing next, right? So a lot of us had different kinds of heroes than most people. So I'd love to hear who some of your animal heroes were, because I think that sometimes, you know, creating your own roadmap to who you want to be when you grow up is in part looking around at who do you admire. I mean, later on in life, as a little girl, of course, I admired being raised Catholic and going to a big Catholic school. You know, I admired the Blessed Virgin Mary and Jesus, but, you know, there are a lot of, and I love that part of my history because that still was the beginning of believing in a certain mysticism, right? And healing and things like that. So that part of me, even though I've left the church and I don't like the patriarchy, that part of me is still very alive. So my early heroes are still part of my daily life. And I think that looking at what our heroes have done, who our heroes have been, growing up is really important. I have a really funny story about that, but because you can manifest it. Is anybody typing in about that?
Not quite yet.
All right, should I tell my funny story? So please share
Yes.
your heroes as a kid. And I'll tell you, as an adult, people like Linda Tellington-Jones became a hero, and then I was able to really look at, I got to study with her. Carolyn Mace became a hero. I got to study with her. This was all in the 90s. So there were a lot of people I really looked up to. I continued to coach. But here's my little funny story about people I looked up to. So when I was an actress, and I went away to college, to Stevens College, all the girls had like some really hot dude picture on the wall of like who they were going to date. And I put Harold from Harold and Maude, Bud Cort. Now, if you know, he wasn't exactly a hot guy, but he was such a genius actor. I was like, I don't care. I want genius actor. I don't need a hot guy. Although, you know, it doesn't hurt. But I was just obsessed with what a genius actor he was. And so I would tell people, I'm going to date him, even though I secretly figured he was probably gay. So years later, I was, again, his picture was on my wall for a couple of years. Years later, I meet him. He sees me in a play. He loves my work and puts me in a film that he then had to cut me out of. And he called and he cried with me that he had to cut me out. But he, later on, I became his date. He was a closeted gay man in the 90s, and so I literally did date him, just I was his beard. So you never know with these heroes what can happen. Like I said, I've been able to study with some of my biggest heroes and work with them, and so keeping these teachers and heroes in mind is really important because that becomes part of the path too. So who has been a hero? Is anyone writing in?
Yes. Yes. Now there are lots of comments coming through. Jacques Cousteau.
Oh
Kate
my God,
says,
perfect. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Me too.
Ooh,
Definitely every
he's
week,
magic.
that show.
Tarzan in black and white, especially Susie Murray Reed says.
Tarzan? You know, it's funny because you did the intensive. The Gibbon Center was started because that guy was obsessed with the ape's call in Tarzan. I mean, this is why it's so cool to look at this, because some of our coolest things have come out of our heroes. Okay, go ahead.
Danchi says St. Francis of Assisi.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful. And Kate also says, and the book Charlotte's Web. Oh my God, that's so true.
Yeah, I think about it all the time, especially when I'm at the Gibbon Center, right? Like, yeah. I mean, at the Gentle Barn.
Sandy says George and Joy Adamson. Oh my God, Born Free.
Yeah.
Jane
Yeah.
Oh my God. Jane Goodall and Fairly Mowat.
Yeah. Also, I love one of my heroes was he wrote The Elephant Whisperer, Anthony, and he died, and then we had his wife on here, Francoise, who wrote An Elephant in My Kitchen. So I always thought I'd get to meet him. But I will say that, like, Ellie is one. Yeah, there's a good example. I was thinking, boy, I haven't had any examples since Carolyn Mason, Linda Tellington-Jones, but that's just not true. I really admired the work of Linda Tucker. She's become a dear friend. I really admire the work of Ellie Lax at the Gentle Barn. She's become, like, an inseparable friend. We do stuff a couple times a week. We walk our dogs. We go on hikes. We do all the things that, you know, we love to do. We laugh a lot. So, yeah.
A lot of people, yes, Susie and Catherine mentioned you, Joan.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yes, and Ellie Lax from the Gentle Barn. Jane Goodall again. Ellie Lax. Catherine Mays, Ellie Lax has been my hero since I was 13.
Wow. You know, she's in the program now, so if you want to come in, take a class, you'll be in with me and Ellie. Yeah, and you know, my friend, another hero of mine was Daphne. I wrote down my heroes. I did my own homework on this. Daphne Sheldrick. In the very beginning, I have to say that Cesar Millan only because he started a conversation in the 90s. I haven't followed him as much, but back in the 90s, before he became famous, I really admired him because he would take dogs that you can't
Yes.
believe. My friend Alan Davidson, who just died, was a real hero of mine. My friend, yeah, Margaret Lynch, I coached with her. I admired her, and I stalked her, and I coached with her, and we've become friends. Um, then I also, I love Dr. Lori Marker, and I'm hoping that, you know, someday I get to work with her. She runs the Cheetah Conservation Fund. I've been there once, and she's just a total hero of mine because she just did everything, you know, talk about working from an ecosystem, working within an ecosystem and creating a richer ecosystem with the work that she's done. And I'm hoping that's what this school is doing and being also. Yeah, so sometimes when we think through what some of my other heroes going back though were even I look at like just the artisticness of the woman that directed the first Lion King, Julie Taymor. That sense of artistry was, I mean, that brings tears to my eyes. So I still like admire great artists and people who were able to create such beauty. I will always admire that. But all along, my heart has been drawn to people that did amazing things with animals. I will say, though, one of my biggest heroes was Gilda Radner, and I almost got to meet her. It's a very funny story, too. I even thought of Marcel Marceau. He lived in a silent world, and he was able to communicate stuff. He was a very famous mime, and not that I love mime work, but I did admire just his face being the epitome of the theatrical smile and, you know, the tragicomedy, but also his ability to communicate in silence, which is what we do for a living now. So anyway, Yasmin has disappeared. I see the roof of her little tent.
Because I'm typing, I'm holding the phone in one hand and then I'm typing reply. So you saw the roof. I'm sitting also outside in my beautiful garden.
I know, your garden is so beautiful.
And listening to, and just like getting engrossed. And, oh, you know, it's so, all these, Kate, we're on the same page, you and I, Kate, today, on so many things. She's obsessed with my octopus teacher, the documentary, and I was just replying back to her, so am I, obsessed with that, and it impacted me so deeply about animal communication, and there were just so many levels in that documentary that impacted me on a deep level, so that was one of my favorites too.
One of them.
A book called...
Go ahead. A book called...
Sorry,
what?
go ahead, John.
No, please.
A book called Kindred Spirit with All Life.
Oh, I have that
about
book.
Man's communication with his dog.
Yeah, I have that up on the top shelf. Yeah, all of that. Actually, yeah, that era of writers, that was, yeah. Kinship with All Life, is that it?
Yeah, Kindred Spirit with All Life.
Kindred Spirit. All right, I was thinking of Kinship with All Life. That guy was communicating with the dog that played Rin Tin Tin, and then eventually started communicating with flies. I mean, it's a great book, but Kinship with All Life, I think, is... Kindred might be another author, but I also have that book. All the books on my top shelf were the ones that got me started in this whole, the top, it's one more shelf up. But really, that's the library, the non-loanable library. So, what I'd love, and you know, just so you know, I'm still always in a coaching scenario. Like, that is something that has never gone away from my life. and we've incorporated it in large part into the school because I know the value of it. And I'm always in some sort of, so it's like I look at these people and I don't ever think I have great admiration, and I continue to do the work that I can do for myself so that I can be the best I can be, which includes things like coaching or therapy or healing. I just worked with a healer the other day. I'm usually in some sort of horse trainer or dog trainer situation. I've got on Mondays and Fridays I ride at 9 with my trainer. I have, you know, dog training help all the time. I mastermind with other leaders, and I'm always connecting with my team because they're the masters of what they do. And I'm constantly asking, how are we doing here? What are we doing here? What do we need to do to be better? So, you know, it's a continuum, if you will. So I want us to take a moment. What time is it, Yasmin?
Yeah, time check, 1:50. So
Oh,
we're coming close to the hour.
yeah, and I have to teach.
Right?
Yeah. So I'd like to take a 2-minute moment here of being on this path, and it's so funny because the gibbons are singing right now, just so loudly. So that's a perfect little, there's one of my signs of just love and happiness. So I'd like for you to take a moment and really just remember who you were as a little person, little girl, little boy. Remembering those things that were important to you, those values that you had of taking care of animals. And for me, it was like letting the fly outside. Every plant was important. All of it. Like all of those things that were important to you. And then remembering some of the heroes that brought you to that level of respect around the world, around the magical world you lived in. And taking a moment to thank those heroes for being part of your journey to here. And now looking to how you could step further into your journey. Do you get to be with those heroes? Do you get to be like those heroes? Do you get to do your own thing in your own way? And so really take a moment to integrate that little person, those heroes, and yourself, and look at the path ahead. And go ahead and come back into the room. And I want to say thank you because I feel like in many ways all of you are my heroes also for showing up and wanting to do this work, because none of us can do it alone, right? And we've created an incredible community here, and the school is an, micro of this macro, and all the work that you're doing just showing up here, even if this isn't your path to be an animal communicator or to be an energy healer, but you just want to help, it all contributes to the greater good. So you are all my heroes. Thank you for joining me. And again, we've got some really fun courses coming up, and one of my heroes, Shannon, is happy to help you on your path. And I have to go teach. Bye-bye.